Hey everybody, it's Joshua Campbell, your knowledge broker. Welcome to the third Knowledge Broker podcast. And as always, with me is Trish Wiswick. So, what are we doing today? Did I do it wrong again?
Yeah, you did. So first
Rizwick.
things first. Yeah, I don't know why that's so hard for you.
Rizwick, I got it.
All right, Josh. Oha.
Hoo-ha.
CAMPBELL.
Joshua.
Joshua. Well, we are got a good podcast today.
All right.
We're picking up right where we left off last week. We were talking about, if you haven't watched the last episode, which I encourage you to do because it was a great episode, where we kind of left off last week was talking about hiring people for their different brand identities, what kind of brand identities would mesh well within an office place, what might not. So we're kind of going off that today. We weren't supposed to, but I changed it because I kind of liked it how it could segue into this. And today we are talking about building your dream team. So one thing that you said last week that really hit home with me is that you can't hire someone for who you want them to be. And if you can't trust a person to go on Facebook Live or Instagram Live and talk about your company, you probably shouldn't hire them. So we're going to talk about the kind of like the hiring process. But to get it started, we're going to have a good old-fashioned bitch sesh. Okay. And I want you to talk or just tell a quick story, about a time when either someone hired you or you hired somebody and it just didn't work.
Sure. When it comes to hiring people, and I can use myself or stories about others that I've hired in the past, it's almost always expectation. Mm-hmm. Sadly, working with people, we have higher expectations for others than they probably are real. And I think that was probably one of my first major cues when it came to hiring somebody, was that I had huge expectations as to what I think they could do in every single day. And then you got to realize very quickly that no one is exactly what you want them to be. To be completely honest, I think that when people hire, they think, okay, well, I can be okay with 80% of what that is. It's probably more like 50, because they're going to grow into the job as well. So, I mean, you got to set your expectations lower, and people might think that means that you're asking for less than. No, it's just realistic expectations that can be met.
So I offered you a story and you gave me an explanation. Josh, I want a story.
Well,
I'm actually asking for a story.
Okay.
I have one. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. There's a reason that I want to talk about kind of like the past. Everyone has a story like this, right? So I was hired at a place, and right from the get-go, like the first phone call interview I had, something felt wrong. Like it just felt like the person interviewing me wanted me to be something that I was never going to be. And that's not to say that I'm a bad employee, that I'm not a hard worker. I just wasn't who they wanted me to be. So I had this phone interview. I went in for my actual interview. It was really interesting. And for the next couple months, I discovered that I wasn't who she wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. She wanted someone who she could say, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm the kind of person that needs to be able to have some creative freedom, have the ability to say like, no, what about if we try it this way? I don't do it in a disrespectful way. I don't try to do it in a demeaning way. But I definitely had an experience where this person just constantly found ways to put me down. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely taught me a lot about what I look for in an employer, and it's definitely taught me a lot about who I would hire. And I always wonder why she hired me, because from the get-go, I don't perceive myself as I'm just going to do whatever you tell me to do. I'm just going to kind of go with everything. I like to refer to myself as almost like a game changer. Like I want to come in and be able to say, hey, this isn't working. Let's try this. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I definitely feel like she may have hired me just because they needed a position filled.
Okay.
So do you have any?
Well, I haven't had a job in a long time. But I do go on job interviews every day. Mm-hmm. And there was someone that, there was a couple that was going to sell their house a few years ago. And part of our process is to involve staging mm-hmm. and interior designing and even complimentary, paid for.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, when I worked with these clients, they actually thought that there was something in the game for me if I brought in a stager. So I don't know if it was there might have been, maybe they saw something on TV, maybe they heard from a friend. They thought that, well, how are you going to benefit from this? And I was like, the only people that benefit from this is you. To increase your sale price, to make the house faster, easier to sell, very beneficial to them. I have no benefit of it, realistically. It was me arranging it. We batted heads at that very moment. And oddly enough, I did still try to get their business because I really wanted to prove to them that it was the best and most responsible thing to do. But ultimately, they decided against it. So, I mean, have I been in that position where I went to hiring somebody? They didn't hire me, but it's just a different situation, a different caliber where we weren't going to fit anyway. I believed in improving their house, improving the value, and improving everything about it. They thought it was a bit of a game and probably didn't trust real estate agents, and thought that I wasn't in it for their best interest, which it kind of sucked when you left. But at the same time, it changed the way that I position, the way that I say things, because I like to learn from every bad experience.
And so would you say that the biggest thing you learned from that experience was just to position yourself differently, or was there something else?
Yeah, it's very much about how I bring it up. You'd be surprised how not everybody wants staging done in their house, which is no problem. Sometimes, even if I paid for it, and the odd time you do, the thing is, a lot of people, they still don't want it. The one thing that I used as an example was, I said, if you're going to sell your car, your used car tomorrow, and it was dirty, filthy, whatever, even if it just had a little bit of dirt on it, if I said, can I give you a loonie and you wash your car, and then when you sell the car for more money, give me my loonie back?
Yeah.
Most people would go and do it. I just gave you a loonie to help your car get sold for more. I'm not asking for the extra money. I just want the loonie back. So it's often, when it comes to real estate, we do staging. Sometimes we'll pay for it up in advance. Sometimes we work with clients where they can't afford it or don't want to pay for it. And I offer, and then ultimately I say, just give me the loonie back after you sell it.
Yeah. Because you're not doing this. This isn't a catch.
Sure. It's really hard for people to think that there isn't.
Exactly.
And I don't know why. I still fathom my head around this. I try to wrap it up and figure it out. And I think a lot of it comes down to, do you want to do this or not? And if they don't want to do it, I'm not going to push them.
Yeah.
But if they do want to do it, and I say there is an opportunity here where we can do it, if I believe in their house and I believe in our strategy and our whole entire process of getting the house sold, if I offer to do it for them for the sake of them and getting more money for their house sold faster, highest dollar, etc., then I'd really encourage them to do so. But ultimately, if I don't, then I probably shouldn't work with that person.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole point of this was I wanted to kind of break down a learning process, because like I said, everyone's going to have an experience where, they don't get hired. They get hired in a place that isn't the right fit for them. And it's kind of inevitable. You're always going to have a job where there might not be a perfect working relationship, and it's your responsibility to find that place, and you need to find that employee. So how do you decide who is a better fit or who isn't? What are some key things you look for when hiring or positioning yourself in general?
I do things methodically because it's easier to repeat method. When we do hiring here, people often find jobs through Indeed. 99% of the jobs are out there. That's just very much a posting site. They have some questions on there like, do you want someone that's finished high school? Do you want someone that has this much experience, etc.? So they have a bit of filters. Not much, because anybody will get through them. After that, I put in the actual job description that it's a 2-part process. They need to send the resume to a certain email, and they need to fill out it's actually a personality test. And they go on, if they do both those steps and obviously apply through Indeed, then I'll qualify them. So you have to at least have completed a couple steps so that I know that you've read the job description, because if I don't get your email, then you didn't read it. And if you didn't fill out the personality test, you don't have enough effort.
Yeah.
So then immediately I feel like you're getting competent people, people that have good work ethic, reading skills. You're getting to the point that at least you're getting here. So out of 300 or 400 people, you're down to maybe 60.
It's crazy. I was talking to one of my old bosses. He was telling me about how on his Indeed application it says send your cover letter, and the amount of people that don't send their cover letter is astonishing. Like I can't even fathom if something says send your cover letter, or for you, please email your resume to this email address, and then that email address sends you questions, someone being like, no, my resume speaks for itself.
Yeah.
They'll want me either way. So those are like your two big keys, I guess, for
Yeah,
the hiring.
That's the first step. Second step, initial initial email, see if they can write back properly, correspond electronically, which a lot of people do these days. Get their cell phone, conduct a phone conversation, see if you can arrange the time that you're going to meet up, meet with them in person at least more than once. Once you meet with them and you feel like you're going to move forward with them, have a secondary interview. And ultimately, there's another test that we use, which is Colby testing, which is very much the personality test, where we can actually see what people's strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah. I loved when I got hired here, I loved the process of it because it felt not only natural, but it felt like you guys in general were doing the extra step.
Yeah.
In a way. So for me, like when I was talking about my story of being hired in a place that I wasn't going to ever be the right fit for, what I learned most from that is what I want in an employer. And the one thing that I can safely say working here, and I can say it honestly because I'm an honest person, is that on your job description, it was so clear what my role would be here. It was so clear and broken down perfectly that there was no confusion. There was no interpretation of what the job would require. And I think that is so, so vital for anybody who's hiring. Take note. You want to make sure you're so clear because you're doing a job too. You know, you're the interviewer. Like you're the one, yes, you're vetting people. You're seeing, okay, can someone email me back in a timely fashion? Can someone answer the phone when I call? But at the same time, you're presenting a level of not even maturity, but structure. You're delivering already yourself. You're presenting yourself and who you are as a company to somebody. And I can say when I applied here, upon meeting you and upon getting all those emails and stuff, it was like already the bar was like way up here. It was like all the other ones would have been like somewhere around here where they didn't really care too much. They were just like, we just need to interview you and blah, blah, blah. But yours was like, this is what we want from somebody. And that's huge, especially as an employee, right?
For someone that wants it, which is the person that we're looking to hire. We've talked about this with marketing. If you send out a certain image, you're going to get image back. It's the same concept where if you send out structural, process-oriented, professional, brutally honest, you will get the people you're looking for.
Yeah.
They want that. They crave that. If I found something way too easy, I feel like it was a trick. You said the word maturity, and it is maturity. It's maturity as a company.
Yeah.
There's no question that if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, they hire probably really well. They probably have HRs. They probably have full processes to get people onboarded. They probably do exit interviews when people quit or retire or get fired. So, I mean, it is a maturity.
Yeah.
But obviously, I wanted to do it early and not learn from it at the end.
Of course.
Yeah.
So why do you think that people don't hire, maturely? Like you might be in a business, say like a retail business. Why do you think people hire people who aren't going to do the job? Why do you think people hire that aren't, they can tell that person isn't 100%? If they think that person is like 75%, why do you think that?
Honestly, desperation.
Okay.
I see no other reason why anybody would do it. If it's not desperation and it's not, I guess, because you can't say it's work ethic on behalf of the manager. I think it has to be desperation. I think a lot of people just have the hiring mentality that you hire as soon as you've lost somebody. They're not prepared to grow. They're not also growing. If you have a growing personality in a growing business, you're always looking to find who the next person is. You're always mentally outfitting this next person. If you're working in retail, I see no difference. There's differences between good employees, bad employees, people that want to be there, people who want to build on it, people that want to learn the skills. So, I mean, you got to constantly be rotating in your head either how you're going to morph your current employees into what they can become next and how they're going to help. And then ultimately also figure out who the next person is. The market's always changing. Clothes are obviously clothes, but I mean, if you think about the demographic buying them, you got to adapt to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just, yeah, for sure, I'd say desperation and just not being ready, which probably comes from corporate culture, from the leadership. The leadership's not telling them to be ready for all things and constantly be moving. I think a lot of people get caught flat-footed, which you can usually point back up to leadership.
So it all comes down to who is your, CEO, your general manager, all that kind of stuff. It
100%.
really does fall into the hands of the person that hired you in the first place.
Or their bosses that have given them the authority to do so.
So how do you think people can avoid that then?
I mean, if I went back into the job field and say I was an engineer and I went into engineering and I was looking at engineering firms, I'd do the research. I mean, look up the company, see what their platform is and how they contribute to society, what they perhaps offer their employees. You'd be surprised how labor laws these days, you're already setting the bench pretty high with regards to vacation days and time off, etc. So that's standard. What do they do above and beyond that? So is it an environment where people want to work? Is it a culture where people want to be a part of? Do they feel like they can be themselves or perhaps be an extension of themselves?
Yeah.
So I think looking into the whole entire company dynamic would be a huge decider for me. We only live once.
That's the motto.
Yeah. We only, there's only a few choices in this world that we really get to make. And a career is a huge one. So, I mean, you better choose one that you're going to like and enjoy. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most money. But usually it has to do with the place where you're going to feel like you're the most encouraged to do things, you're most appreciated, but you just really enjoy it. So why not?
Yeah. Find a place that you really like. Because I know for me, I've worked a ton of jobs where it was just something to like pay the bills and it still wasn't great. And I think that's so important. And if I could pass any wisdom down to anybody who may be my age or younger, don't stay in a job that doesn't fit.
Not even your age or younger.
Anybody.
Yeah.
But I feel like my age or younger makes a mistake more often than none because we're like, nothing will ever come, but it will. It will. You just have to keep looking and don't feel like you're settling or you're, stuck in a rut or someone will never hire you. Like, I know for me, when I got this job, I had been searching for a month. I came back from New Zealand. I'd been away for a couple months and I was like applying to everywhere and it felt like nobody would hire me. And then my mom was like, hey, this is a thing for this real estate company that's conveniently located to your house. And I go, all right, well, I'll apply. And then I saw like the whole breakdown and I was like, whoa, this is organization. I like organization. But I wanted to just say, like, in the hiring process, I know what you're saying, that there's a desperation sometimes for people to fill spaces because they're not prepared. And it's crazy how you could just not be prepared. Like, I also think it's astonishing that in some businesses, you're not ready for people to leave, even though the job that they're in is, say, like a part-time job. Like, it's crazy to me that people aren't like, oh, you're not going to stay here forever? It's like, well, if you're paying me minimum wage, like I need to move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
So from an employer standpoint, when you're hiring, I think that there's a few things that are really key to remember. And like I said, you guys did it. Kudos to Knowledge Broker. But other people out there who are in the hiring process, these are just 3 things to keep in mind when you make, your job posting or you're hiring. And disagree with me, but clearly identify the tasks at hand. Leave no room for interpretation. You don't want to apply for a job thinking you're going to be doing one thing and then you get to the interview and find out you're doing something else.
Yeah, the way that I work with that, the job description, I very much almost put right into the posting.
Yeah.
I allow them to see it right off the front. I feel that it really is a transparent way to conduct, and people can really be, they can be aligned with it. If there's a skill in there they're not good at, it may be something that can be trained, or they know that they won't be qualified and they move on.
Yeah. I mean, I applied for a job, not too long, like not too long ago, like a while ago. I was applying for an event planner, a marketer, and a salesperson. And that was everything that was in the description. I got to the interview and he said all I was going to be doing was sales. And I'm like, why would you include those two other things on your description when all you're doing is sales? So, of course, I go into the interview completely blindsided, and then he thinks that I'm just completely careless, even though it was his mistake.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, there's on the posting side, a lot of the time it is also inexperience as well. And you think about inexperience of people your age and younger or any age, they don't know. People that do hiring, they don't know. So it's almost like you got to get trained on doing hiring. Some people are quick learners, some people are not. You might be surprised how people still continue the same trend, even later in life when it has not been successful, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. The second thing is identify the skills needed. So just saying that, you know how to use Microsoft Office, that's not the skill needed. The skill needed is, what are your writing skills? Can you respond back to an email in a timely and professional manner? So write those down too. Write the skills you need.
It's a good idea. You just made me think of something that would be good to include. Would be the type of writing.
Definitely.
Like, is it creative? Is it
formal,
dictation?
informal? Oh yeah, even dictation.
Sure.
100%.
Is it for the purpose of newspaper article, like blogging, whatever it may be, writing down the specific type of writing rather than proficient writing skills. It's too vague.
Because what does that mean? Are you writing like legal documents, or are you writing a tweet?
What's proficient?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. Write that down too. And then the last one, which is a biggie. Be honest with the hiring. Like, do not tell someone one thing and it's the complete opposite, or say like, oh, our office, yeah, we use the back door to this warehouse, and it turns out this warehouse is in the sketchiest part of town. Be honest with your hiring. Do not make someone go, like, don't let someone go in there thinking, oh, they work in the most beautiful, luxurious office in the world, or, you get like 6 weeks of vacation every year or something like that. It's like, no, be honest. That 6 weeks of vacation is actually a 6-week hiatus that you take every year where you're just not working. Be honest with them.
Yeah. Honesty is key. I mean, I feel like there's nothing to steer you wrong when you know the truth. Which is really what I present. Sometimes the honest, like the blatant, honest truth is not necessarily the one that people want to hear, but at least they can look at it, think about it, and ultimately make the decision based on the facts. So maybe more report a matter of fact rather than a report of destiny or dream that is not going to be realistic.
Yeah, because like if you said, oh, we're moving into this fabulous new office in a week or in 2 weeks, and then the person started working there and they're like, when are we moving? And you're like, oh, did I say a week? I meant a year.
Yeah, 2, 10.
Yeah, that's not fair.
No.
So be fair to your interviewees. So I do want to switch gears a little bit and talk kind of about Knowledge Broker and the positions that it created. So Knowledge Broker was kind of like this idea that branched off of Coldwell Banker, our main brokerage, correct?
Yep.
So when you were creating Knowledge Broker, after obviously your position, because as like the founder, that one comes first, what were the other positions that you created or you thought to create?
It's interesting. I've done through professional coaching. I have a diagram of the company in 10 years, and I have every single position in the company that I think needs to exist in 10 years, even if it's multiple of one position in general.
Like sales associates.
Sure. Account representatives, whatever the case may be. And the neat thing is I took all those and I went down to priority. And I said, okay, what priorities are the first and which one's the most important? And you hire those ones. So if I look at the whole entire, I guess, organically looking at the entire company, it will make sense in the future as to who got hired first, who got hired second. It's not just, let's go get what if we had a cook?
Yeah.
I'd love to have a cook. I'd love to have a cook work within the business to the point that they supplied food for everybody that worked there. But you're not going to go and hire the cook first.
Yeah.
No.
So was there a strategy when you were building that?
Yeah. The strategy is to very much look at every single thing that you do during a day. So, or on a weekly basis, annual basis, whatever it is. Write down everything that you do in your activity inventory, which is what the people at Strategic Coach, the coaching company that I have, they refer to it as. If you write down everything and then you go through it with, I think we did like an A, B, C, D. A meaning the stuff we loved, B meaning the stuff we're like, okay, C meaning D meaning I hate.
Yeah.
Hate doesn't necessarily mean it's the worst job in the world, it just means it's not aligned with you. Find someone to do the D.
So delegate.
Find someone to find the C, the B. And eventually your A will be smaller and smaller, so you focus just on what you're really good at. But essentially, you got to go through that methodical way of doing it in order to hire out the person that is meeting your needs, which is not the same as everybody else's.
I saw something really interesting today, and it was about a hiring kind of strategy. You know, what position should we hire first? And in my head, I always thought like your administrative assistant or your assistant should be like the first person you hire, right? It wasn't. They actually said that should be the last person you hire, because they're kind of helping everybody. And if they don't meld with everybody, they only meld with you, then it could cause like disruption. And I thought that was so fascinating, because that's kind of what we were talking about last week with brand identities and finding someone that clashes with your work environment. I just wanted to, what do you think about that?
I think it's spot on. I like to hire for position, not for person.
Yeah.
So create the position. If, for instance, your job is marketing manager, write down every single thing that the marketing manager is going to do. Obviously have their input into what they can do differently to add to it. Hire it, and then you hired your marketing manager. Does everybody have an assistant type role in this world? You bet your ass. I'm an assistant to you. You are to me. Everybody else with a knowledge broker, we're all assist back and forth. To actually have like your dedicated assistant, imagine the thought process that they would have if anybody ever went into work for a new company, knowing that this person is the one that's been there forever, and they might think that too. And before you know it, there is that clash. It's a power. It's an ego clash. I think with position, you can't get ego.
Yeah.
This is your kitchen. You work in that kitchen. You work in this kitchen. I work in this kitchen. We all have our own stuff, and realistically, the lines stay on your side of the line.
Yeah. Okay, so one last closing question, because we're wrapping up here, is about the cost of hiring. So hiring people costs money. I mean, you're bringing someone new into the business. So kind of talk to, at what point are you like, okay, I'm ready to hire someone new. I'm ready to pay a new person. And what is like a fear? What is like the value of that? Can you kind of talk to that?
The biggest fears that you get into when you hire your first hire is how you're going to pay them. Okay. So how are you going to pay them? People look at it and they go, what if it cost me $40,000 or $50,000 a year? Well, first of all, you're paying them hourly.
Yep.
And then they get paid bi-weekly. So the first fear is that you're not paying that out in one check. So that is something you realize, that they make hourly and they get paid bi-weekly, and you continue to move forward with them, but you're not paying this huge chunk. The second thing is, what are they going to do? So then you really have to go through the design process of figuring out what they're going to do. And then you don't just say, when they come in and say, you're just going to handle all the stuff that I don't want to think about. Well, that's too sporadic, and people are not going to want that job. So then you do what I said, which was the inventory, and figure out what the job is going to be. Hire for it. If they love the job, then you hire the next one and the next one. So the fears, and I guess the fears I get over, but at the same time, it's the exact same fear for every single new hire.
Yeah.
How are you going to pay them? What are they going to do? If you can figure those two things out, the first one mitigates itself. You got to realize that it is what it is, hourly, weekly. You also need to have space for them, no question about that, and time.
They need to have a desk.
And time. You got to have time to train.
Yeah.
So on like how much money does it cost to even train somebody? You didn't ask that question, but to hire somebody, full process, to get them onboarded, probably within 6 months, not including wages, I bet you it would probably cost $5,000 to $10,000 in monetary money, meaning like spent, time put into them, way more.
So on that note, I think that's where we're going to end the episode today. Thank you, Josh, so much for those insights. Where we kind of left off is going to segue into what we're talking about next week. So please tune in for that. I'm not going to tell you right now. But any closing thoughts?
Yeah, as always, if you guys have any comments, please leave them in the comment section. If you have any questions or any feedback, we'd love to hear it. And until then, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, so I'm Trish.
Josh, see you guys later.
Bye.
Thank you very much for stopping by our channel. If you have any questions or if you're looking to buy or sell, go to our website and contact us today. Knowledge is power and creates experts in understanding. If you want power, hit thumbs up on this video and subscribe to our channel so you can get weekly videos from me, your knowledge world.